wind towers that are going to be built there, up to 1/4 of a kilometre tall. But that's not all. The consultants report for this project, which is chaired, by the way, by former Labor Prime Minister Julia Gillard, says the current footprint of this project will result in the loss of a total extent of 127.5 hectares of native vegetation, including native vegetation, 325 large trees and patches, and 104 scattered trees. And this happens to be exactly where the first Landcare project was, where volunteers actually planted trees to link up, which for wildlife, for instance, now trees are being pulled down. I mean, no wonder locals are cross, holding protest meetings to work out how to fight this environmental vandalism. Joining me is a neighbouring farmer near this planned project, Marsha McIntyre. Marsha, thank you so much for your time. Volunteers round your way planted trees for the environment. Now a wind project wants to tear trees down for the environment. Does this make sense to you?
No, I mean, and particularly for where, Landcare started, it's absolutely devastating. And there has been, I must say, hundreds of thousands of trees planted because this is such a significant area for linking. The entire area is surrounded by Karrakara National Park, Morromoral Conservation Reserve, Mount Bellangham Conservation Reserve, Big and Little Toddington Conservation Reserves. And these are all internationally recognised key biodiversity areas because they are that precious and that rare in terms of what's left in Victoria and also in terms of the biodiversity that they have. I guess, in terms of, I'm not sure how many of the trees that have been planted will be removed, but what is going to happen is that the tops of the hills are going to be cleared of their remnant native vegetation, and some of that is the most critically threatened, federally protected woodlands and grasslands in Victoria, and then it goes down in the number of grades of, protected woodlands and grasslands that are going to be removed, and it's absolutely, I suppose, astounding to think that this could happen in this day and age, that we would be deliberately destroying the connective zones between all of these, these already very special reserves. And I suppose that the reason they're so important is because they allow for the travel of all of the biodiversity and the breeding, the interbreeding and the travel and the feeding and the watering of all of these species throughout the entire area. They are really vital biolinks that they're going to be removed.
But Marsha, all right, there's the effect on the wildlife, right? That's one thing. Got that. For me, though, what really offends me, driving through the countryside, and you see, and it's not just some valley, they're stuck on a hill, so everyone for absolutely miles around has to see them. There are your views. It's the vandalism of the landscape. I am sure that you are not on the land. You didn't decide farming life for me or whatever to stare at wires and a huge industrial wind tower or 10 or 20 or 100 of them.
No, definitely not. I mean, I suppose, again, the irony of this project is that a big part of it is actually in an area that's called Paradise. And it is called Paradise because it is stunningly beautiful. It is absolutely stunningly beautiful. And, it's criminal in terms of the environmental vandalism that's occurring here, but also in the removal of, this absolutely stunning area from Victoria. Like, it's surrounded by all these parks and hills and then the rolling, valleys and creeks and everything in between. It's very sad indeed.
I'm almost out of time, Marsha, but tell me, what are the locals saying about it, and can you stop it?
Well, the locals are really concerned. They're concerned about their land values. They're really concerned about the environmental vandalism that they're going to have to witness every day. They're concerned about the contamination of their waterways. Of course, when you clear hills, you of course create erosion, sedimentation, possible salinity due to geological conditions, and of course there's issues with people's very concerned about land values. But this company, which is, as you said before, is chaired by Julia Gillard, they had just south, there was a wind turbine that burnt down a few months ago, and they didn't even know about it. And can you imagine what would happen if this particular area, there was to be a turbine fire? There would be no way of ever getting to it to put it out, but of course it would be immediately into the national park or into one of these amazing conservation reserves. And of course there's the issue where, in Victoria, they have, 1 kilometre into our property, they actually have planning control on our properties. So that's, they can say whether or not you can build whatever you want on your property for 1 kilometre. I guess there's also the issues of the community in terms of, there is division, although, as you're aware, the large majority of people are really...
That's the thing, because some people earn from it, and their farmer next door has to stare at it, so there, of course, division.
I think
honestly, Marsha, look, I'm out of time, but I've got to tell you, keep fighting. This is ridiculous, this sort of stuff. Burn the forest in order to save it, really. Marsha McIntyre, thank you so much.